One night, I was watching TV at home when I suddenly heard a sharp cat's meow from outside the window. The sudden sound made me a bit uneasy, given that this was a very old apartment building where even the slightest noise could be unusually piercing. I walked to the window and saw a faint light from the window of the opposite building. It seemed like the neighbor's cat was meowing. The residents on our floor changed frequently. Almost every month there were new tenants. Opposite lived a middle-aged man who had just moved in. He lived alone, and I rarely saw him. The cat's meowing continued for a long time that night, fading away only when I was about to fall asleep. The next day, I encountered the middle-aged man in the hallway. He looked somewhat haggard. I tentatively asked him,
"Did something happen last night? Your cat seemed to be startled and kept meowing."
His face turned pale at my words.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a cat.
I nodded apologetically and didn't ask further. Over the next few days, the cat's meowing was intermittent. Every time I heard that piercing sound, I felt an inexplicable fear. Finally, one night, I decided to see what was happening. I walked to the neighbor's door and knocked lightly. The door quickly opened, and the middle-aged man stood at the entrance, a hint of wariness in his eyes.
Hello?
He asked. I mustered up my courage and said,
"I've been hearing cat noises from your place lately. I was wondering if I could help with anything."
He hesitated for a moment and then said,
Do you really want to see?
I nodded. He stepped aside, and I walked into his apartment. The room was dim and cluttered, with a strange smell permeating the air. He led me to the living room and pointed to a corner where a cage stood. Inside the cage, a black cat was curled up. I was about to ask what was wrong with the cat when I suddenly felt a chill behind me. Turning around, I saw several strange photographs hanging on the wall. The photos showed blurry human figures, with the background being different corners of this apartment.
"These photos are..."
I hadn't finished my sentence when the man suddenly grabbed my shoulder from behind.
This cat appeared out of nowhere, and so did the photos. I don't know why they're in my house, but I can't get rid of them. Every time I remove them, they reappear the next day.
His voice was filled with despair. I struggled to turn around, seeing a crazed look in his eyes. He forcefully pushed me towards the cage, and the cat inside suddenly let out a piercing scream, scaring me to the ground.
This cat isn't an ordinary cat.
The man said in a low voice.
It can see things we can't.
My mind was in a whirl, and I tried to stand up and escape, but he held me tightly, not letting me move. He continued, his tone having a hint of madness.
There's something in this building that's been watching us. I tried to use the cat to find it, but it always hides well.
At that moment, the cat in the cage suddenly stopped meowing, and the room fell into an eerie silence. The man's expression stiffened, and he let go of me, turning to look at the cat. The cat's eyes were fixed on a corner, and suddenly, a blurry shadow seemed to appear there. A chill ran from my feet to the top of my head, my heart pounding fiercely. I couldn't care about anything else. I quickly turned and hurriedly left this place of trouble.
Don't go.
A weak whisper came from behind.
Help me.
I stopped, looking around but finding no source of the voice. The shadow and the man were gone, leaving only the blurry photos swaying on the wall. The black cat in the cage stared at me, its original fear turning into ferocity. I shivered in fright. I suddenly realized that the figures in these photos were all my old neighbors, each of whom had left quietly after living in this apartment for 3 months. A sense of dread filled me. Could this cat be related to the disappearances? I decided to take a risk. I softly spoke to the cat.
"Can you tell me where they went?"
The cat's eyes suddenly brightened. It opened the cage with its paw and started darting around the room. I followed it closely. It finally stopped in front of a wall, scratching at it incessantly with its claws. Approaching, I found a loose wooden panel on the wall. With a push, the panel opened, revealing a hidden chamber. I took a deep breath, grabbed a broom nearby, and cautiously walked into the chamber. It was filled with various strange items, ancient books, talismans, and things I had never seen before. The musty and dusty air inside the chamber made my heart race faster in this oppressive environment. Suddenly, I noticed a corner of the chamber filled with dusty boxes, each labeled with a different name, names of former residents of this building. A chill ran down my spine. I didn't dare think too much and carefully approached the boxes. My hands trembling, I slowly opened one. Inside were some daily items, seemingly packed in a hurry. I opened several more boxes, each containing similar items, but no human remains, which provided some relief. However, when I opened the last box, I saw a familiar photo. It was a picture of myself, placed on top. Shocked, I wondered how my photo ended up here. At that moment, I heard faint footsteps behind me. Turning quickly, I found the black cat standing at the entrance of the chamber, looking down at me. I tried to communicate with it again.
What are these boxes? Do you know where they went?
This time, I received no response. The black cat slowly walked to the other end of the chamber. I followed it to a large mirror. The cat jumped onto a table in front of the mirror, gently touching the mirror with its paw. Suddenly, the mirror started to glow faintly, and I saw my reflection, but it wasn't the familiar me. I looked old, my face wrinkled, covered in needle marks and red scars, with eyes emitting a strange green light. Terrified, I tried to back away, but found myself unable to move. The reflection of me in the mirror suddenly smiled, the laughter sharp and piercing. I felt dizzy, the world spinning around me, and my vision blurred. When I opened my eyes again, everything had changed. I found myself curled up in a small space, surrounded by iron bars. I tried to stand, but realized my limbs had turned into furry paws. I had become the black cat. I tried to scream, but could only let out a cat's meow. The shadow reappeared, this time stepping out from the corner, standing by the cage, coldly watching me.
Welcome to your new identity.
He said in a low voice, a hint of mockery in his tone.
My dear little cat.
I tried to rush out of the cage, but he quickly closed the door. Just transformed into a kitten, I couldn't adapt well to this body and remained trapped in the cage. A week later, my previous apartment welcomed new tenants. Since that, just let me join the new family. Why do I have to turn into a cat while they can live normally?